My match encounter. This whole situation started off with me joining Match.com. I've been divorced for 2 years now, and my ex-husband was, for lack of a better word, a total slob. He never showed me affection, and the reason for our divorce was partly due to his inability to be a loving husband. He was a cold fish, period. Then I found out he cheated on me with a woman from his work. Needless to say, I was 40 plus, scorned bitter ex-wife. Nearly 2 years after our divorce, I wanted to start dating. I had a few casual dinner dates with a couple guys who my girlfriends had set me up with, but no sparks. I think for me it was hard to get to know a person very well over a 2-hour dinner date. So I decided to go online and look for love. This way I could chat with the man before meeting and get to know him on a personal and in-depth level. I met Michael my first week on Match. I'd had a few men message me who were locals, but let me add this. I live in Arkansas in a semi-rural town, and the local men who were sending me messages from Match were definitely not a match, if you catch my drift. Michael said he was from California and was looking for love after losing his wife to an auto accident several years ago. He had a daughter named Jennifer who he said was 14 years old. He told me he worked in road construction and building bridges. He said he worked all over the world, but currently was in California in his office near his home, but was about to have a big contract which would take him to West Africa to build new roads and bridges. He explained how the road system is and how bad it is there, and he was given a government grant to lead the building project. He asked me if we could talk on WhatsApp because he didn't think he was going to stay on Match because he said he ran into a bunch of scammers who tried to get his money. Now, I knew nothing about scammers or what he was talking about, but I told him I would exchange numbers with him, and I asked him to give me his number first. He agreed, and we exchanged numbers. We chatted on WhatsApp and text only for a while. He shared photos of his house in Los Angeles and pictures of his daughter, his car and himself sitting behind the desk, and a few photos of him out on a fishing boat, which he said was his, and that he loves to go fishing when he has free time. I shared with him a few pictures of myself, but when he asked for my address right away, I was taken back by that. I told him I like to take things slow, and I don't feel comfortable sharing my address with him for safety reasons. At the time, he accepted my answer, but also tried to make me feel bad, that no woman had ever trusted him before, and he hoped that I would be different. I didn't fall for the poor sad me game. I simply told him that until I know him better, I will not give him my address as I live alone. A big mistake telling him that, though. We chatted further, and he asked the basics, what I did for work. I was a teacher's aide for an elementary school, and I love my job. He asked me if I'd dated anyone online before, how long I'd been on Match, and what my results were. I let him know that I was new on Match. He said he was too, and he was only on for a few weeks. He said, being on for a few weeks, a woman had scammed him there out of money. I told him I had no idea people would do that and be that nasty on Match. He told me to be careful of scammers, and I thanked him for being concerned. We ended up chatting on and off through the next few days on WhatsApp, but never voice chat. He sometimes would text me late at night, and I reminded him that I need to go to bed by 9 p.m., as I woke up early during the week for work. I had to be in class by 8 and leave my house by 6:30 to get there on time. He would always try to keep me up late into the night. A week after chatting, I tried calling him on WhatsApp. I grew tired of constantly texting. He didn't answer, and he told me he was in a business meeting and it's forbidden to answer the phone when in a meeting, as it's a financial meeting about his government contract. I apologized, and I told him to call me when he was done so we could finally hear each other's voice. I was tired of texting to him like a teenager. He never called me that evening. I went to bed without even texting him. I felt uneasy. I mean, you hear horror stories of catfish and women being men online, kids and stuff like that, and I thought, if he can't call me, something's wrong. I need to hear his voice. I was woken up, though, at 3 a.m. by the sound of my WhatsApp ringing. It was Michael calling me. I was in such a deep sleep, I half answered and was half asleep when I picked up the phone. He asked me what I was doing, and he said it was Michael. I was a bit upset. I told him I'm sleeping. It's the middle of the night. I have to work. I have things to do in the morning. He said he couldn't stop thinking of me and wanted to call so I could hear his voice. I guess I couldn't be too upset. I waited to hear his voice for quite a while. I was a bit taken back, though, because he had a very thick accent. We only spoke a few minutes, and I told him I have to go to sleep. Later that day at work, it bothered me that he called me so late, and his accent was such an odd one. I texted him, asking where he's from, as he has a very different accent, definitely not someone from Los Angeles. He told me that he was raised in Turkey and his father had worked abroad, and he went to a boarding school in Latvia before coming to the States when he was an adult. So his accent is a mix of Turkish and a person from Latvia. I guess. Well, we continued talking more and more. He asked me if I had Facebook, and I did, and mostly used it for family, ex-in-laws, co-workers. Half my friends were from my job and some church friends. He gave me his Facebook profile and told me to add him so we can stay in touch this way as well. I clicked his link and added him as a friend. His profile was very blank, with hardly nothing on it but a few photos of where he had lived, and his wallpaper was of his daughter, or so he said. I asked him why his profile has nothing on it, no history, no likes. He told me when his wife died, he became so upset he deleted his original profile, and only just made a new one recently to try and get back into the social world. I accepted this. We kept chatting on WhatsApp. He would send romantic songs, poems. He was very attentive. He would say, "Good morning, beautiful. Good night, my queen." Call me every day and night. Sing songs to me. He told me I was his heartbeat and the reason for living, and that I woke up his dead heart. I noticed that he started to friend a few of my relatives, and a few cousins of mine asked who this Michael person is. I told him it was a guy I met on a dating site, and we were kind of online courtship dating. They assumed he was okay and accepted his friend request. And soon we were talking nightly, late into the night on weekends, and yes, we became very close. Soon, though, he showed me a contract for his construction business and said that he had to leave for Ghana in West Africa for a month to complete a road project. He rambled on and on with me of how his work is so important because he's giving the poor Africans roads to drive on, and that would improve their way of life. He was quite detailed about how life is in Ghana. He said they were so poor that they needed these roads to survive. He kept talking about how poor they are and how he is a savior to his people. Honestly, I kind of was growing sick of hearing about him ramble on and about saving these people. He sounded a bit pompous and self-absorbed. In the back of my mind, I questioned why he called them his people. He wasn't from Ghana, or so I thought. The day he was supposed to leave for his trip, he asked me for my address. He said he wanted to send me a gift from Ghana. By this time we'd spoken a while, and I felt comfortable with him. He even had given me a website to the company that he works for, and it looked legit. I gave him my address and said he would call me when he arrived. He told me he loved me and he was falling for me. I felt the same, and he sent me some love songs. I'd never had a man be more attentive to me in my life. Yes, I compared him to my ex-husband, and it was like night and day. I think years of romantic neglect made me fall for this guy's words so easily and ignore the red flags. I knew Michael would be traveling. He gave me his flight information, and the flight would be 28 hours with all the layovers and stops. I told him not to worry and give me a call when he got to his hotel and got settled in. Well, I didn't hear from him for 3 whole days. I began to get worried and I tried calling and texting him. He had not been online as far as I knew, and finally on the fourth day he called me. He said he was so sorry, but he had a few glitches with the contract, and the company had not set up his hotel properly, so he was unable to find a place to stay. He said he had to sleep in the airport and his phone had run out of charge, which to me made no sense now looking back, as all airports have charging stations. When I asked him about this, he said Ghana doesn't have such things. They're a very poor country without electricity. So I accepted his excuse. I was glad he was okay, but he said the company didn't book the hotel right, and he had to pay for it himself until he got home and was able to get a hold of the accounting department and get reimbursed. He then asked me if I would be able to buy him a $100 iTunes gift card to keep his phone going. I'd never bought one before. I actually didn't know what they were or what they did. He said he would pay me back when he got home, as we were supposed to meet when he got home from his contract. I went ahead and got him the iTunes card the next day after work and gave him the information on the card. We talked again into the night, and he said his project is going well, and he couldn't wait to see me. We kept in touch day and night. I stayed up on the weekends to chat, and a few times I tried to video call him, but his camera was all black. This happened before when he was in California. He said there's something wrong with the software on his phone and he needed to get it replaced. But since it's a work phone, he has to submit a claim to get a new phone, as his company has to approve it. I've tried again to video call while he was in Ghana, but he said the connection is bad and his phone still is not working right. Anytime I video called, all I got was a black screen. We kept talking on voice chat. He even showed me photos of his work projects. We made plans to meet, and he said he was going to fly from Ghana to me as soon as his project was complete and take me on a vacation of a lifetime to Hawaii. I was thrilled. He gave me all the flight information and showed me a hotel in Hawaii he said he had booked for us. The hotel paper was in his name, so I had no reason to think he wasn't legit. I even put in my vacation time at work. I went out and bought new outfits for the trip and a new suitcase. We continued our romance, and 1 week before he was supposed to leave, Michael called me frantic one night around midnight. I was sound asleep, as yes, it was a work night. He was crying, bawling his eyes out. I woke up in a panic to hear tears and asked him what's wrong. He was breathing hard and hyperventilating. I told him calm down. He told me that he was robbed while making a trip to the job site to check on his workers and that they beat him and knocked him unconscious. His workers found him on the side of the road. He lost his money, wallet, credit cards, passport, briefcase with the workers' pay, all of his documents. He said 2 workers carried him to a nearby hospital where they had to do surgery on his arm because it was broken and had been cut badly. He showed me photos of the cut and the broken arm. He said the hospital is going to call the police because in Ghana you have to pay for the hospital bill up front. He said he had nothing, and all the robbers didn't steal, miraculously, was his phone, which was hidden in his chest shirt pocket. He tried calling his work, but no one will answer, and the hospital is demanding payment. He asked if I would be willing to send money to the hospital administration to pay his bill, and then he would try and contact his work to get him on an emergency flight home. He was going to cancel the contract because the people in this country were animals and didn't deserve a new road system. He was pleading and crying. I was so upset. He asked me for $3,500 to pay for the doctor's services. I felt so much pressure from him. He kept telling me he loved me, he wanted to be with me, he'll die in this hospital. I caved and said I'll send it. He gave me the name of the hospital billing director in Accra, Ghana, and his email address and phone number. I ended up calling the number, costing me a bit to call international. This administrator answered the phone and confirmed with me that Michael must pay the hospital bill or face jail time, and that he looks to have an infection in his wound and they will refuse to treat him until the bill is paid. I ended up having to wire the money to Ghana to this administration person in two separate payments. I was unable to send the money via Western Union. I ended up having to go to an international transfer place near my airport, which did RIA and other transfers to Africa using various wire services other than Western Union or MoneyGram. Western Union refused the transfer due to suspicious activity, and MoneyGram refused as well. I wired the money, and the hospital administrator let me know via email they received the payment and sent me a paid invoice document, supposedly from the hospital. Michael then called me and told me that his company refuses to book the flight home because he walked off the job, but he didn't want to go back and finish the contract because, in his words, quote, "those animals will try and kill me again. He just wants to get out of Ghana." I told him he has to finish or go to the embassy and tell them what happened. They would help him get home, but he said they refused him. He asked me if I could send $3,000 via Bitcoin so he could book the flight at a local travel agency that used Bitcoin to pay. I told him I don't have that kind of money, and he begged me, telling me that I didn't love him. I told him I'd have to look and see what I could do. I told him I would call tomorrow. He was upset but said okay and told me to hurry. The next morning, though, a dozen roses showed up at my door from a local florist. They were from Michael, and I was absolutely shocked. They were very expensive roses, and I was touched. No man had ever sent me roses or even given me flowers before. I racked my brain to try and figure out how to come up with this money. I then called my sister and asked her for a loan. She wanted to know what was going on, and I explained to her. She then said she'd be right over. My sister came over, phone in hand, showing me text messages she had gotten from Michael. He had friended her on Facebook and was hitting on her, telling her that he was single, a widow, and he had a 6-year-old boy, a totally different story. She didn't take the bait, as she was not interested in dating anyone online, but didn't put things together and didn't realize he was friends with me or who he was until she checked my friends list. She then talked to my cousin, who told her I was texting Michael and he had friended most of my family and friends. I told her what he was asking for me, and she told me it was a scam. We Googled his pictures, and they came up as a German politician who's married. I felt sick. My sister and I ended up confronting him both at the same time via Messenger, and he blocked both of us. I then got a WhatsApp message from Michael telling me he was going to send someone to my house to get me, and that how dare I question him. I told him off and blocked him. He came back on Facebook with a new profile and sent me a message telling me he was going to send my naked photos to all my friends, family, and coworkers. Well, I had never sent him any naked photos, so I knew it was a scare tactic. I blocked his new profile, but before then I grabbed the profile link and posted it on my timeline, warning my friends and family about this guy. Soon, several friends and distant family came forward telling me they've been talking to this Michael as well. My ex-coworker said she was in a romantic relationship with him and she had no idea I was dating him. She assumed since I was friends with him and he showed up as mutual friends that he was safe and okay since I knew him. This scammer was romancing my family and friends and coworkers and asked them for Steam cards, iTunes cards, and cash. The name I sent money to in Ghana at the hospital administrator was likely the scammer. I found a man online who I think is him. When I confronted him and messaged his real profile, he blocked me, so that gave me my answer. That was the scammer. Since this incident, I've gotten tons of friend requests from fake profiles and a handful of men from Ghana. My family and friends have too, and it's been a nightmare. I ended up cleaning out my friends list to make sure no other fakes were friends with me. I found out a friend of mine from church had sent Michael a $100 Steam card because he said he was helping orphans in Ghana and told her an entirely different story than he had told me. Be very careful with who you friend on Facebook and meet on dating sites. These scammers are like tapeworms, infesting every host they can find. I'm more savvy now and live with the regret, but at least I didn't send an additional $3,000. And we'd like to thank this lady for sharing her story. If you'd like to share your story of an encounter with an online romance scammer, you can find us on Facebook under the page Scamming Scammers Action, or drop us an email, scammingscammers@gmail.com. Give us a few days to verify your story, and we will upload it into a video. Thanks for listening.